What's up, guys? We are in Bellingham, Washington right now. I'm visiting a local business up here who's doing exactly one of the strategies that we teach in the passive income mentorship program. So we show people how to acquire assets and how they can use those to generate cash flow, to generate rental income. So right here you can see this Jetski. This is a Jetski rental company. They're gonna have boats and all sorts of things that people can rent out when they're having a fun day on the water. We're up here visiting the business to see their first launch day here in April. It's a little bit cloudy today, but they wanna make sure that everything is up and running. They're doing their due diligence to make sure the equipment's working and everything is going to be on point for when they're actually renting to clients. So guys, the reason that I think that this is one of the best types of businesses is because you are parking your money essentially in a valuable asset. So whether it's an exotic car or a private jet or maybe a piece of real estate, in this case it's jet ski. So this model is actually really great because you take your money, instead of paying for a service or for something to happen, you're just parking it. You're moving it from your bank account into this asset. And now this asset is valuable. That jet ski, if he decides to just shut the business down, that jet ski has value. So he could just sell the jet ski. He might break even on it. He might lose a little bit of money, but for the most part, his risk on the downside is pretty limited. So that's why it's a great business, because you're buying this asset and then somebody else is paying you to use it for a short period of time. So some people might want to come rent it out for an hour, maybe 2 hours, maybe for the whole day, but because you own that asset, you're making that difference. You're buying essentially these hours in bulk, and then you're charging slightly higher, maybe in some cases a lot higher, to rent it out for an hour. I know sometimes I've rented jet skis, they can cost anywhere from like $50 to $200 an hour, depending on where you're at. So if you're positioned correctly, if you're in the right market, you can make a lot of money renting something out like jet skis, and it's a really great business model. A lot of people have made a lot of money simply by buying assets and then renting them out. And one thing that I want to point out about this specific business is that this is actually a student of mine, and he has used express funding. So that's the program that I teach people how to get access to capital. And he used the exact strategies that I teach in order to get the capital needed to start this business. So he went out, he followed the steps, he followed the process, and then he got capital at 0% interest. And then he was able to leverage that to purchase this asset. So not only does he get multiple assets with a fairly small amount of money as a down payment, but on top of that, he's able to cash flow. So the cash flow that he's going to be producing from this business is going to cover his payments. And on top of that, he's going to net some cash. So the jet ski is going to pay itself off. He's going to cash flow, and he's going to be able to acquire more and more and more of these assets. Now, with a business like this, one thing to keep in mind is that it's pretty seasonal, right? So we have maybe just a couple months out of the year, especially in a state like Washington. Washington is maybe 3-4 months out of the year where you could truly rent these jet skis out. You have to make sure that you're calculating for that, because it's not going to be a monthly thing. In December, nobody's really renting jet skis. So if you're making enough money in the summer for it to make sense, then it's probably a business that you should pursue, that you could just run really aggressively for the summer months when it's sunny and just make a ton of cash and then live off of that cash for the rest of the year. But remember, you're going to have to get good at money management if you're going to do something like that, and you have to be able to project your expenses for the rest of the year. So with a seasonal business like this, it's possible, but it's definitely a different style than I personally like. I like to invest in assets that I can rent out for the entire year. So for example, if I'm buying a house or an apartment building, my tenants are not seasonal. My tenants are renting from me every single month, and that produces consistency in my cash flow. I have a lot of operating capital because of that, and I can predict plus or minus within a couple thousand what I'm going to make every single month because of my rentals. Now, of course, you're always going to have vacancies and stuff like that, and sometimes you just can't collect rent for whatever reasons. But for the most part, you're able to predict your cash flow a lot better when it comes to something that's not seasonal. So those are things to keep in mind. But just to give you a brief overview, you could buy a jet ski for maybe like $5,000 to $20,000, just depending on the type of jet ski you're getting. But let's say it costs you $10,000. If you get a $10,000 jet ski, and let's say you take out a credit card for that, right? A lot of times credit cards will just have you make a monthly payment of 1% of the balance. So if you have a $10,000 credit card and you use $10,000 of it, with a 1% minimum payment, that's going to be about $100 a month. So that means that you're able to cover that pretty quickly when you're renting this jet ski. If your customers are paying you $50 to $100 an hour for this jet ski, you're going to be able to recoup that initial $100 monthly payment fairly quickly, and on top of that, everything is going to be profit. Now, if you have some employees, there's going to be some additional expenses on top of that, plus marketing, website, all that stuff. But for the most part, it's a pretty low overhead business, and it might be a good idea to start something like this just to get the ball rolling, just to see what it feels like to start renting out some assets, and then you can start moving up to more expensive assets. So exotic cars, apartment buildings, private jets, that type of stuff. Then you can start leveling it up to more expensive assets. So as you're building that history with your reviews, people are going to go back and read what experience other people had. So if they're gonna see that they had a great experience, everything was working properly, the jet skis weren't broken, it didn't shut down on them in the middle of the lake, they're gonna probably leave a pretty positive review. And most of the time when people are looking for new vendors that they've never used before, somebody that they maybe even never worked with, but they're gonna rely on these reviews in order to purchase their service or their product or whatever it is. And so when you're launching a new business, it's just that important to start getting those positive reviews at the beginning. And the way you can do that is by testing all your equipment and making sure that it works properly. And on top of that, it's just customer service, because at the end of the day, people understand this is a new business. If somebody rents from them tomorrow, they're going to understand that, hey, this is a brand new business that just launches their first day renting, and if something goes a little bit wrong, they're probably going to be pretty reasonable and understand, but it's your responsibility as the business owner to test everything and do your best to make sure that everything is working properly before putting clients and other people on there. Especially when it comes to something like jet skiing. You have to have all the proper paperwork, all the waivers, all the equipment tested, and you have to have everything lined up in order to make sure that the customer has the ideal experience out on the water, because this is something that they're going to remember. Then once you've mastered that, once you have a consistent experience that you can provide to clients, you can then start adding additional items. Oh, you're going to be out on the jet skis. We can actually bring our videographer with you. We can bring our photographer, and they can document the whole experience for you. Oh, you have your phone with you, you want to bring it out on the water? We can help you with the waterproof case. We can show you how you can protect your personal device, your wallet, your phone, whatever it is when you're out there on the jet ski, and you can document the experience for yourself as well. So starting to add these little add-ons is just a value add for these people as they go out for the jet ski experience. Alrighty guys, so with this type of business, remember, you're acquiring the asset, you're buying this asset at a discount because you're essentially getting a wholesale price on all the hours or days that you own it, and then you're upcharging that and charging maybe an hourly rate or a daily rate to use that asset. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next video.